Hello, welcome to STR, Shivarajan's teaching room. Today we are having the botany classes for plus 2 students. The first chapter is reproduction in organisms. So we will be discussing on the chapter reproduction in organisms. This is the first chapter in botany. So, and this is the first episode of the first chapter. Okay. So let us think, what is reproduction? Reproduction is the ability of an organism to produce young ones of its own kind. That's the definition given for reproduction. The ability means the capacity, the capability of an organism. What is organism? Organism means a living thing. It can be a plant or an animal. So the ability of an organism, the ability or the capacity of a plant or an animal to produce young ones of its own kind. What do you mean by its own kind? Similar to themselves. That's the meaning. A cow gives rise to a cow only, not a horse. A buffalo gives rise to a buffalo only, not a goat. That means the ability of the organism to produce young ones of its own kind or similar to themselves is called as reproduction. So let us think of the definition. What is reproduction? Reproduction is the ability of an organism to produce young ones of its own kind. So, when we think of reproduction, we have to think of another question. What is it? Why an organism should reproduce? Why an organism must reproduce? Why? Because every organism will die. No organism is immortal. Every organism will die. If the organism do not produce young ones before it dies, with the death of this organism, there will not be organisms or living things of that kind. That's the reason. So an organism should reproduce because every organism has a particular period during which it can be alive. And that period is called as lifespan. So what is meant by lifespan? Every organism can live only for a particular period. After that period, it will die. So that period from birth to its natural death is lifespan. The period from birth to its natural death of an organism is called a lifespan. And the lifespan is different for different organisms. Some organisms may be very small, some may be very big organisms. But the size of the organism has nothing to do with the lifespan. The size of the organism is not related to the lifespan. For example, a crow can live up to 15 years, but a parrot can live for 140 years. See, a crow and a parrot are almost of the same size, but the crow can live only for 15 years, but the parrot can live for 140 years. That also shows that the size of the organism has got no influence on the lifespan, or it is not related to the lifespan. Another thing is an elephant. An elephant, it is the biggest animal on the land, biggest terrestrial animal. It can live for only 60 to 70 years. But a very small organism, very small animal when compared to elephant, the tortoise can live for 100 to 150 years. See, a crow can live only for 15 years. A parrot can live for 140 years. An elephant can live for 60 to 70 years. And a tortoise can live for 100 to 150 years. From these figures, we can understand that the lifespan has got no relation to the size of the organism. There may be a question in your examination. What is it? The statement is given. The size of an organism has no relation to its lifespan. A statement is given like that. The question is, substantiate this statement with your answer. What can be the answer? A crow and a parrot both are organisms, birds of similar size, almost similar size. But the crow can live only for 15 years. At the same time, a parrot can live for 140 years. An elephant can live up to 60 to 70 years, but a tortoise can live for 100 to 150 years. From these figures, we can see that the size of the organism has got nothing to do with the lifespan. Okay, then there is another thing. We have to study the lifespans of some organisms. See, in your textbook, on page number 4, some figures are given. This is the picture. Here, this is the elephant. Elephant can live for 60 to 70 years. You may also please take your textbook and make a note of these figures in the textbook below the figures. The rose plant can live for 5 to 7 years. A dog will live up to 10 to 13 years. A butterfly can live for 1 to 2 weeks only. A crow can live for 15 years. A plantain tree or banana tree, a plantain can live for 20 to 25 years. A cow can live for 20 to 26 years. A parrot here can live up to 140 years. Then a crocodile can live for 60 years. A horse can live for 25 to 30 years. A fruit fly can live for 40 to 50 days. And the rice plant can live for 3 to 6 months according to the variety grown. Some paddy plants will mature and give the paddy within 3 months. Some will take 6 months. So 3 to 6 months is the lifespan of rice plant. Then a tortoise can live for 100 to 150 years. So an elephant, rose, dog, butterfly, crow, plantain, cow, then parrot, crocodile, horse, then fruit fly, rice plant, tortoise, and a banyan tree can go for 200 to 300 years. So these are the pictures given in the textbook on page number 4. These figures will appear as questions in your question paper. So make sure that you know at least the lifespans of these organisms. So let us come back again. What is the lifespan? Lifespan is the period from birth to the natural death of an organism. Then, why? There is one more question we have to think of. Why an organism should reproduce? One reason we have understood. What is it? Every organism will die after a particular period of time, what we call as lifespan. Within that period, if the organism doesn't reproduce, with the death of that organism, that species will come to an end. The second thing is, if the organisms do not reproduce, by the gradual death of these organisms, by attaining the lifespan, gradually the number of these organisms will be diminishing or decreasing. The number of the organisms, or we can say the population of a particular species, will be decreasing day by day by the death. So to compensate this loss by death, organisms has to reproduce. So there are two reasons for the reproduction. One, to keep the continuity of the species. Second, to keep the population as such. Then, now we will think of what are the different types of reproduction. What are the different modes of reproduction? There are two modes of reproduction. One, asexual reproduction, and two, sexual reproduction. So reproduction in organisms can be of two types, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. See, these things, these are the two different modes of reproduction, and we will discuss asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction in detail in our next class. So today we are winding up these things. So we have seen what is reproduction and what is lifespan. We have seen the lifespan of different organisms, and we have seen the importance of reproduction. And we have come to this point that reproduction takes place in two different ways, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction, which we will discuss in the next class. Okay, bye.